Hello guys, and welcome to the Perfect Timepiece channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the Seiko SKX173. So without any further ado, let's hop into it. The Seiko SKX173 is a unique diver from Seiko that offers an interesting proposition to the budget-conscious consumer. Its position in the marketplace is hard to distinguish though, as the SKX173 is essentially the same as the lower-cost SKX007, but with squared indices. In fact, these are the same watches. The different serial numbers just signify where they are originally offered in the world. The 173 is the American version of the 007, but you can buy both in America, so Seiko should get their stuff together on this one. Confusing serial numbers and pricing aside, I think this watch offers a lot for the price, and it warrants a closer look. At $225 on the gray market, the SKX173 is put up against fierce competition. Being an older model, the 173 does not offer the same technology that a lot of newer watches at this price point have. For example, the crystal protecting the face of the watch from daily wear is Hardlex crystal, Seiko's proprietary alternative to sapphire glass. While this is a significant upgrade from mineral crystal found on cheap watches, the Hardlex crystal is not as good as sapphire in terms of scratch resistance. Getting into the nitty-gritty details of the movement, this watch features Seiko's 7S26 movement, which was released in 1996, or the year I was born. Because of the movement's age, the watch does not hack or hand wind. As a watch collector, I constantly switch out my pieces, and I found this particularly annoying. I could live with this drawback, but modern alternatives to the 173 offer better movements for a lower price. Enough negatives though. What does this watch offer to the consumer, you may ask? First, the watch offers a kind of unique retro design, which has made the SKX line of watches stand out through the years. In addition, the watch's case and its finishing stand out, adding to the iconic look of the piece. Even with the older movement, the watch is technically impressive, with 200 meters of water resistance and a screw-down crown. Not to mention, these movements have been known to go for decades without a servicing. Ultimately, we feel the watch is a mixed bag in terms of what it offers to the consumer for the price. The 173's positives and negatives for this category are fairly balanced, so we feel giving this watch a 7.5 out of 10 points for value. Let's talk a bit more about the movement inside the watch, or the gears and technology which make this watch tick. As I said in the previous section, the Seiko SKX173 contains the 7S26 movement, which does not hack or hand wind. This means that pulling out the crown will not stop the second hand, and unscrewing the crown will not wind the watch. From a full charge, the watch can go 41 hours before running out of power and needing to be worn again. This is a fairly standard power reserve time, and we cannot complain. The movement also contains 21 joules, and the second hand operates or ticks at 6 ticks per second, or 21,600 Hz. In addition to the three hands, the movement drives the day and date window at the 3 o'clock position of the watch. These are easy enough to reset when the crown is pulled into the second position, and they cleanly change over to the next day and date at 12 o'clock. Ultimately, the 7S26 movement offers decent value for the money, and if it wasn't compared to more modern movements, it would probably receive a higher score. That being said, we feel comfortable giving the 7S26 movement inside the SKX173 a 7 out of 10 points for the movement category. And we hope Seiko chooses to refresh the SKX line with newer hacking and hand-winding movements. We are going to continue our conversation about the SKX173, but we're now going to focus on the aesthetic design of the piece. This is a largely subjective category, and it may be the most important. After all, if you don't like the look of a watch, you probably shouldn't buy it. So we urge you to judge the watch in this category for yourself as we explain our score. Starting from the face of the watch and working out, the dial design is above average for the price. The indices, filled with lume and outlined with white paint, are in line with the dial and match the coloring of this watch nicely. It's worth noting that this indice design reminds me a lot of the Tudor Pelagos, a watch multiple times the price of this one. The Seiko logo, painted just under 12 o'clock, is neat and precisely typed with a pleasing typesetting. Moving over to the 3 o'clock position, the date window is cut neatly into the face. Down at 6 o'clock, the only splash of color on the dial stands out with the watch's water resistance rating of 200 meters. The hour and second hands are aesthetically pleasing, while the minute hand jumps out. I'm not sure if this hand was designed this way to accentuate the diving functionality of the watch, or if it was just for looks, but it has grown on me as I have worn the watch. The minute track runs along the outer ring of the dial and is chamfered at a steep angle. While the effect of this chamfering can be off-putting, it makes the watch easier to read. The bezel's numerical text also matches the dial well, and I'd say it's a nice fit. Finally, the case shape and polishing design, in addition to the crown protectors, give the watch a solid, tool-like look. All of these elements combine to give the watch the retro look I was talking about before, and the watch really lights up on the wrist. Ultimately, I think this is an iconic design that will continue to age well through the years. We feel comfortable giving the watch a solid 8.5 out of 10 in the design category, given the few small nitpicks. The second most important factor when considering purchasing a watch is its usability, or how the watch handles everyday wear. As an engineer, I perform mostly desk diving and not the scuba diving this watch was intended for. Nevertheless, I appreciated the 200 meters of water resistance this watch offered as I was walking through the city in a cold winter downpour. I did not use the 120-click unidirectional diving bezel of the watch much, but when I did, it felt a bit cheap. The best way I could describe it is that if the rubber gaskets inside the bezel are rubber bands. The bezel has a bit of vibration and play when using it as it is intended. That being said, the only watch I have to compare the 173 to is my Christopher Ward Trident Pro 600, which has a much better bezel but also costs 5 times as much as this watch. I think Seiko made a good compromise when it came to the bezel of this piece, so they could keep the overall price down. As I mentioned in the value category, this watch has a Hardlex crystal instead of a sapphire glass. This makes the watch face slightly more prone to scratches. It is also worth noting that the overall construction of the watch is pretty impressive. The watch is much heavier than you would expect, and it feels like it would handle a rough environment well. The strap of the watch is pretty average overall, but it is a cheap rubber strap, so my expectations were already low. A major negative of the 173 is the non-hacking, non-hand-winding movement, and as a new collector, I've grown accustomed to modern movements that have these features. It gets a bit annoying when you have to wear the watch to wind it. I won't beat this point anymore. I think it's a dead horse by now. Overall, we appreciate the robust construction of the SKX173, and it's earned 8 out of 10 points in the usability category. Finally, we have reached the final category of our review, which happens to be the most subjective of them all. This category is, of course, wow factor. Like the design category, we urge you to judge the watch for yourself as you listen to our opinion. When looking at the watch head-on, the large bezel distracts from the overall aesthetic of the piece. To me, the squared indices of the watch are the main selling point, so it bothers me that the bezel draws the eye away from them. My favorite angle when viewing this piece is at a slight angle over the 6 o'clock position, as the bezel is slightly more reserved and the minute track accentuates the squared indices. In addition, Seiko did a marvelous job hiding the strangely placed crown. The large and angular crown guards not only protect the crown from damage, but also help integrate the jarring crown into the case of the watch. The polishing on the case also adds a nice element to the watch, although I would say it is a step below the Sarv line in terms of quality. Finally, the all-polished screw-down caseback has the iconic SKX Tsunami embossed into the caseback. This cements the watch's diving theme with some cool metalwork. Overall, we feel the SKX173 has earned an 8 out of 10 points in terms of wow factor. So now that we've made it to the end of our review, it's time to tally the score and issue a verdict on the Seiko SKX173. With a 7.5 out of 10 in value, a 7 out of 10 in movement, an 8.5 out of 10 in design, an 8 out of 10 in usability, and an 8 out of 10 in wow factor, this watch has earned 78 out of 100 points, or our bronze seal of approval. Just 2 points shy of silver, this piece is still worth your money if you're drawn to its iconic design. As always, links to purchase this watch are in the description down below, and if you purchase from this link, you are going to be supporting the channel. My name is Josh, and you've been watching Perfect Timepiece. If you liked this review or you want to see reviews of other watches, definitely subscribe down below and let me know what you want to see next. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye.